It's great to be back here this morning on Breakfast Central. Thank you very much for joining us, tuning in, whether you're watching on television or you're watching on YouTube via News Central TV Live. It's, however, sad to recall that 15th of March, we were here to talk about the kidnap that happened in Oyo State and Borno State. Until date, these people have still remained in captivity, and we are now on the 17th of June, well over a month of them being in the bush, dealing with the rains, the sun, the deaths, the sickness, and the question is, what is being done to bring them back? Is it just going to be a situation where we're just going to keep hoping for the best? And are we forgetting? Is life just moving on whilst these people are still in the forest? I hope that this is something that all of us can ponder about, even as we continue to demand accountability. You're welcome to Breakfast Central. I am Olive Emodi.
Thank you so much for joining us, and welcome back, Olive. I'm Joe Hansen, welcoming you on a Wednesday morning. Oliver said it all. We're still counting down, plus so many stories that indeed has taken place, especially with the headlines. And the big question right now in Nigeria is INEC trying to ensure that Nigerians do not register? Because this is a conversation we're going to look into. A cross-section of Nigerians have come online to complain that they are no longer able to register on the INEC portal. For those who want to make changes on their list, or better still, on their data, they're not able to do that. And it's a question we've been asking INEC. We've tried as much as possible to reach out to the INEC chair, and hopefully he will grant us his time so he can speak extensively on this. Besides that, the name Justice Peter Lifu is in the air. Everyone is trying to find out why a justice of the Federal Republic of Nigeria will decide to go ahead and ask INEC to deregister major political parties, despite the fact that there is already a court hearing that has called for a stay of execution. Is the justice bigger than the court? Or better still, bigger than the stay of execution that had been granted by definitely the court? Well, these are some of the questions we'll be looking into, plus conversations around Nigeria's judiciary. But then again, we're not alone. We have the one and only, the one that's replacing the man who's bearded, who's decided to go and buy Okpa, like he always says. Chiwetel joins us. Good morning, Chiwetel.
Good morning, Joe. Good morning, Olive. Good to see you guys. Of course, I'm not sure, of course, you're a regular host on the show, but it's always exciting when I have to join you guys.
I'm really very happy that you have to come, because that Benga boy, it's not really,
he sent you to buy Okpa.
Yesterday, he was like, you shouldn't even come back.
As I'm talking to you like this, Benga used to fear me. That's why he knew that I was coming back today. So he had to
run away.
Because, our energies doesn't right.
I see that.
I'm happy to have you, a better host.
Wow. Okay, that's why you're wearing red.
Yes, that's why we're wearing red.
I'm always matching with Oliver.
Yes. Actually, the last time we matched 2 days back to back. I think we planned. Yeah, but Benga can never match.
It was, I made sure I scattered it.
It was Benga, we wear red, Benga, we wear purple.
Exactly, intentionally.
No matching. Anywho, thank you very much, Mr. Johnson. Yeah. And thank you to our virtual audience. We're streaming live on YouTube. News Central TV Live is the handle. Now, speaking about INEC, imagine arriving at the INEC office in Garki as early as 5 a.m. hoping to register or to transfer to a new polling unit or replace a lost voter card. Yet, despite his commitment, citizens are left waiting until 9 a.m. before officials begin attending to them. So the question is, what has happened between that time? They needed to wake up and settling. Well, this was the case of a lot of Nigerians who have been groaning over the difficulties experienced in the past few days or weeks just attempting to get their PVCs or even to revalidate them. This is not just about these long queues. It's also more about the treatment of Nigerians who are eager to participate in the democratic process, which I must mention is their fundamental human right. And Nigerians are asking whether or not they're given the fair chance needed to participate in the process, or attempts are being made towards denying them their rights to participate in the process leading up to the 2027 general elections. Nigerians have also raised concerns of a death notification form that they are being asked to fill while registering for their voters card, asking why such was necessary for their voters registration process. So this is what the death certification looks like. And the question is, what is the essence of this? What's the point of this?
So this is a story that has gotten into the minds and hearts and blood of a few Nigerians, not few, many Nigerians. Remember, this case started especially from about 3 to 4 weeks ago, where some Nigerians went on X, on social media, and said they don't know what's happening. They're not able to find their information on the INEC portal. Some have been going, there was an issue where people had to move from ADC to NDC. So it seemed like the moment, in quotes, very important persons moved from the ADC to the NDC, the followers decided to also move. But it became it became a problem where they were even caught in the middle. They could no longer move, and they kept complaining that, wait, why is it that we're not able to see our information and we want to quickly, because there's a time lapse, you just need to quickly just move, switch quickly, and they couldn't do that. We thought it was just a glitch, it was just for a moment of time, it would change. Eventually, it never did. Up until yesterday, someone still posted that, listen, I decided to go to the INEC office not once, not twice, and I am not able to effect the changes I need to make on my own data in terms of my registration and my voter's card. Now, what is going on? We do not know. And then surfaces the so-called alleged document that when they give few persons to fill, they saw death certificate. And everybody's wondering, is INEC really going through
what's the plan?
What's going on with INEC?
I'm even looking on their page, and I'm on INEC handle, and I'm trying to see if there has been any addressing as at this morning of this death, allegations of the death certificate. And that's the one thing that INEC needs to really do better with. When they're being criticized, they take their sweet time before they respond, knowing how very sensitive the body that is called INEC is, how very pivotal INEC is to entrenching democracy in our country. If they say something about, they say that, they're allegations and they're posting videos, come out and quickly
they have an update. They actually put it on the Vanguard this
okay, because I'm looking on their social media.
They said we don't issue death certificates according to INEC. So let me just read through the
Please do.
They said viral death form row stems from registration officer's error.
Okay, so yet again, this brings us to the Emeka Ike issue again, where they said internal problem. Can you fix your home INEC, please? Find a way. If you need deliverance, go some places and get it. Because I really don't understand what is happening, honestly. But then again, I think generally we have a problem when it comes to getting data as Nigerians. And I don't know why in 2026 we're still having this problem with an election that is budgeted to spend about 873
almost
billion
1 trillion
naira. I'm wondering, this is 2026. Why are people still lining up to register? We're going to have the same problem most likely in the next election. Election is almost like a World Cup every 4 years, right? So you have time to plan. So what happens to all the BVN, NIN, all the ends? Even when you want to register with those kind of, get your numbers and all that, you still see us go through the same process. Do you know this actually affects us as Nigerians? If we trace it back to even when we're in university, it's almost like the same thing. Everything we want to do that has to do like registration or getting people's data, it's always trainers. Fight, problem. They'll scream at you, then whoever is in charge feels like they are the king and the queen, or they are the messiah at that point in time. Until you stand there, move there, go there. So I don't know. I think the Ministry of Science and Technology needs to collaborate with INEC and find a lasting solution as to how Nigerians can be registered. Some of these people are registering, yes, there are some people registered for the first time, but a lot of them who have registered during the last election. So what happened to the data back then up until now? So I don't know, INEC, I don't know what's happening with all the billions you're spending on an election. They were likely going to see bowls again, right? We're going to see bowls. We're going to see some rickety bosses bringing electoral materials as usual. Late, exactly, late. So INEC, I don't know, these billions you're spending, it needs to show. But aside that, we need to find a way to use technology to save Nigerians the stress of actually doing what they're supposed to do. Do not deny them their civic duties.
The problem with that technology that you've raised now is that technology is only used when it's convenient for them. But typically, the moment you mention technology with regards to INEC, the next thing we're hearing about the possibility of a technical glitch.
So why are you spending billions? Why are you spending billions? We have to move there eventually.
We should. And
we have to. After all, we trust our banks to an extent.
I completely agree with you, right? I completely agree with you in the terms of INEC has a lot of work to do. There's a lot of cleaning that has to be done. It's not enough to come and say, oh, there was an official who issued a death notice by mistake or whatever their excuse was.
Procedural error.
Procedural error by an INEC official. That INEC official is not acting in his own capacity as a person. That INEC official is acting in the capacity of INEC, representing INEC. That's also an indictment on the hiring or the training process that INEC gives to its officials. An indictment. And what that tells Nigerians is maybe they are not doing a thorough enough job. Because how on earth do you make the mistake of giving a death certificate to somebody who's coming to do their CVR exercise, and then this video makes the rounds on social media? How? Like, this is clearly written, notification of death of a person named on the register. So are you saying that your official that mistakenly, the official that had made this procedural error cannot read, or has eye problem and forgot his glasses at home, couldn't see that what was written there was a notification of death of a person named on the register? I also went on X, and I saw somebody else who made that comment beyond the person who posted this, saying they were trying to do some regularization online or something, and something similar popped up. It is time for INEC to clean house. I mean, time for INEC to clean house was yesterday. Unfortunately, we're counting down the months to election, Joe. And the question is, do we even have enough time? There's even one
in Ekiti on 20th of June.
Yes, they have an off-cycle election in Ekiti. I think the biggest question is, does INEC have control over its own house? That's question one. Two, can INEC be trusted to carry out the elections? Because it's one thing to say you are an independent body, but can you see, in the space of 3 months, the issues that have bedeviled you as an independent body is actually from you? Yeah. Okay? Nobody went to, stoke a fire.
To hack INEC website or whatever.
First one, it was the chairman who was found wanting. Okay, Oga, carry out a forensic report now. You brought someone, there was no international or no independent forensic researcher.
They said there was an independent, that they had an independent forensic researcher. But the problem, INEC did. But the problem was that when it was time to share the results, it was INEC's page that we saw that, we consulted an independent forensic analyst. A party cannot be a judge in its own case. Nemo judex in Kosaswa.
And that's why I blame the National Assembly. Because when this happened, the National Assembly should have said, okay, everybody, let's nominate. They nominate and get the people or the company that would come in. I mean,
who was tiptoeing around some few words in electoral, so what's that now? The new electoral reform as regards transmission, no transmission. You see, are they the ones that will actually now focus on INEC?
So there's a lot of problems. That's problem number one, Josh Amubuton. Problem number two, you also have the issue of
Emeka Ike or Elera
INEC now comes and DSS now comes and said, okay, they found out that there's somebody internally.
Who is this?
We asked yesterday, we're asking today, how far? Where are the results now? We've not seen anything. And then this one, number three, death certificate. Can I say in summary that
the problems with INEC and the independence of INEC and the fact that Nigerians don't seem to trust INEC, it boils down to two things. One, that Nigerians have expressed a lack of trust in INEC. And that lack of trust is predicated on the fact that there really isn't any separation of powers when it comes to INEC and the executive arm. Until we get to the point where the president does not have any influence in appointing the INEC chairman, we're going to keep running around in circles like this. And all these different little pockets of mistrust, we're all treating symptoms. All these things we're seeing, they're symptoms of a root cause. And what the root cause of the problem with the mistrust of INEC is the fact that the president has the power to appoint the INEC chairman. And then Nigerians will say, if you have the power to appoint the INEC chairman, he who plays the piper dictates the tune. So if we want to fix INEC's troubles, let's go back to fixing that. Changing the process. Maybe some have argued that we should then open the position of the INEC chairman to voting and that the Nigerian citizens can be in charge of it. I don't know what the situation is, but the president, unless he stops, unless we rewrite our laws, rework our laws to ensure that the president does not have a say in who the INEC chairman is, we will continue to have symptoms like this. But let's see some of the videos.
I think we should see some of the videos.
We do have some videos, fine.
Let's see some of the videos of Nigerians having difficulties in this. But okay, all right. What Nigerians are saying first.
All right, this is from Kule Remi Official. I'll take this tweet and then I'll take some on YouTube as well. He said these people obviously want to see how far we will go. I don't think we all understand what is going on yet. We do. We will. If we do, we'll all be on the same level of anger and disgust. That is from Kule Remi. The next message is from the real SIM card. He says they are systematically trying to disenfranchise Nigerians, but we no go agree. The question is how una no go agree. The problem of Nigeria lies on INEC. I think it is time we hold INEC chairman responsible for all that is happening in Nigeria because they are like God we see on earth. Their decision is what is keeping us where we are today, Engineer Johnson says. This is how they frustrated me last week. I wanted to leave and I heard a voice. Suffer, no, they tire you. Then I remembered how we are suffering, depressed, unhappy and afraid of our lives every day. I stood my ground till I got my PVC. I'm tired. We are tired. Enough is enough. Thank you. I am your desire for, standing your ground. If your vote doesn't count, why are they trying so hard to make sure you do not vote? Why are they campaigning? Please go and get your PVC, Lux Jules says. And on YouTube, we have Aripo Jesse says, INEC asking for death certificates. Wonders shall never end. Moku Yochiko Emeka says, INEC cannot fix itself. They are part of the government. That's the issue. Part of the argument we heard people say is that INEC is an extension of the APC. This goes back to what I said about many people not seeing the difference between INEC and the government because the president appoints who the INEC chairman is. Michael Zu says INEC is deliberately disenfranchising the youths, especially those who will become 18 years from August to December 2026. Amukbiton is an APC mole. We don't know this, but I understand why there is this issue. INEC is a department of APC. Nigerians wake up to this reality. The INEC death certificate may be linked to INEC's desire to register dead persons and their ghosts. INEC is composed of incompetent and probably dead persons. I pity Ekiti and Osun non-APC aspirants. We read this tweet to let you know the mindset of how Nigerians see what is currently playing out. Again, back to the trust issue. Mokuye Chukwemeka says, if INEC does the right thing, how will the government of the day rig? How will they play the game of the government? Michael Obieku says, Amukwiton. This man is going to break the record as being the worst INEC chairman ever in the history of Nigeria. He's actually on a mission to destroy our democracy. Ibisiki says, the real question should be, how did a death certificate get into INEC? No, so it's not a... I think we understand how the death certificate can get in, because typically when people are dead, they should not be able to vote. They should be deregistered. So that should be able to be the form that they will use to deregister the dead people. But is it that the person that was given that form did not read or did not know what was written there or did not see it? Error. Then Kelvin Honda says, Kokoro Tijefo is inside INEC. It's a shame. I mean, the insect that is eating is a Yoruba that said, Kokoro Tijefo, a deer for lower. That is the insect that is eating the vegetable lives inside. And finally, Okpanachi Suleiman says, we are going to be INEC chairman in the next election in our various states and local governments. These are some of the comments on YouTube. Please keep the comments coming as we move to our next story.
The next one is, of course, taking us to Ebonyi State. Governor Francis Uwifuru of Ebonyi State has dismissed claims that President Bola Tinubu handed over the state's political structure to FCT Minister Nyesom Wike. Speaking at a stakeholders rally in Abakaliki, Uwifuru described the report as false propaganda, stressing that Ebonyi remains firmly under the control of its people and the All Progressives Congress. Now, he emphasized that his state was not for sale and warned against attempts to destabilize its political foundation. Now, the governor also reaffirmed his loyalty to President Tinubu, noting that his administration is committed to strengthening the APC in Ebonyi State.
On the ground that some people are going around and saying that they discussed with Mr. President. They discussed with Mr. President. And Mr. President has given Ebonyi to PDP. And they say that their leader, that Nyesom Wike is their leader. And then Wike said the president has given Ebonyi to him. And we say to them, what? Mr. talking, nobody should push us. Because we have all it takes. We have all it takes to consume whoever is trying us. We have all it takes to destroy whoever is trying us. Is it not true? Is it not true? Is it not true?
Now, you guys noticed something about that video. That was the APC chairman, Netanyahu. Where the moment he mentioned Tinubu and mentioned Wike has not been given power or state structures, there was a change in his countenance at that point in time. If you noticed that, I don't know what that meant.
Was he laughing? Anyway. I think he was laughing.
No, but he was kind of frowning, like, I don't know, maybe it looked like the governor of the Ebonyi State was going off script. But anyway, I think...
he said
it looked like was going off script because he looked like, okay, what are you saying, bro? But then he went back.
Okay, I'll go back
but
and look at
you know, he kept on smiling eventually.
We can still put the video up
and all that. But I don't know why he's saying this. I don't think Wike is really interested. I don't think Wike is really interested in taking over like the whole of APC. I think Wike's assignment right now is Rivers State.
And Abuja.
And Abuja. That's it. And it's a case of, I suspect, now I'm not saying I've confirmed this, but I suspect that Wike is, of course, because based on what he said, that right now he's aligning with President Tinubu's re-election. Now, when you make a statement like that, it means that you support the president. But now this is where the question is, why are you still in the PDP? Right? Because I feel like that's where he has power. That's where he has the might to do and, you know, make some things happen. And I think that is where the president, that's the position the president needs him to be at, as opposed to coming into the APC and trying to take over.
Well, don't forget, let me just run through a background of what's really happening. This all started way back before the month of May. But particularly, it reared its ugly head in the month of May 2026. The governor of Imo State, Governor Hope Uzodinma, happens to be the chairman of the Progressive Governors Forum. And there were statements that the FAC allocation, you know, there were rumors that FAC allocation, there were some deductions that were made to support the president's campaign ahead of 2027. And what happened, particularly on the 8th of May, a few governors gathered, and in their meeting, they registered vote of no confidence on the Governor Uzodinma. And 20 governors...
That's what the rumors that they were going to take him out.
Yes, they formed a quorum and said, listen, they want him out. And they all agreed. They even took pictures.
Yes.
And then they said they're going to replace him with Governor Peter Mba. Unfortunately for them, there were 20 governors, and then you had about 20 minus 36. That's about, you have about 16 governors.
16 rather, yeah.
Some were sitting on the fence. And others were like, okay, why are you doing this? What's going on? It was like a rush, and they wanted to quickly conclude. Up until even the chairman that you saw there, that's why when you said his countenance changed, he wasn't buying the 20 governors agreeing to remove. He was a bit indifferent. So in recent interviews, he also said that, no, that nobody agreed to that. So he took his own stand as well. Okay. However, to bring it down to what we saw there, the Ebonyi State Governor, His Excellency,
Francis
was part of those who said no. Remember that there were also rumors that the governor of Imo State was backing Governor Siminalayi Fubara. He was way behind him and ensured that he was registered to the APC. There were a lot of statements going back and forth. So he came to clear the air in this video. This was when they had their own rally in the state and said, listen, we heard that they've given this state to the FCT minister. I want to tell you that we are not afraid of him. This shows the position the FCT minister holds in the president's cabinet, that he is a very strong force. And what he wants, he's definitely going to get.
And he's a strong force, but he has not moved over to the APC. And I think he knows that it's going to be more difficult for him. The kind of power he controls in the PDP, I don't think he can get that in the APC. He's going to have to go through the ranks, or at least do something very, very drastic to be able to earn such power. Because a lot of people he's going to be meeting in the party who are equally strong.
You know what's actually sad in there is how we've normalized certain statements. Like, oh, they say they've given over the state to Wike.
I don't understand.
Like, how do you normalize the state? You are giving the state as party park.
I don't understand.
We're doing poverty alleviation. The state is, reward.
No, you're even giving this like there are no
things.
humans that live there.
So what happens to the
no
citizens? The citizens don't have a stay. And it's how we have normalized statements like that, that you as a governor will come on a podium and you will say things like that, meaning that behind the scenes, there's an element of truth to that, right? You're giving over the state political structure. So my own is, we have come to the point where political structure now supersedes the citizens' will, the citizens' rights. Who determines who should be governor? Should it not be the citizens who will decide who they want to be their governor or who they want to be their representatives? All of a sudden, I can wake up today and say, you know, I've given the right political structure of Imo State to you because you're my friend. Like, how have we normalized things like that? I will take reactions from YouTube and then go to X, then maybe come back to YouTube. Mokunye Chukwuemeka says, Governor is truly afraid. All this public show is a man who is trying to keep his office. Wike is interested in the whole of Nigeria.
Wow.
Well, there have been those who argue that the end game for Nyesom Wike is the presidency, but he's bidding his time. These are some of the arguments we've heard from the grapevine. We haven't confirmed for sure yet.
Well, but we don't know for sure.
Exactly.
We really don't know for sure. But what we know is that even in the APC, within the APC, there's a lot of back and forth. And then they're having internal scuffles, as it were. But let's get to see what Nigerians are saying on X very quickly regarding that video from the governor. It says,
wow.
Excellency is not playing around. By the way, we must state here clearly that we do not agree to that name that was given to the governor of Ebonyi State, Your Excellency. The reason was because they said his official portrait, he wasn't happy, he wasn't smiling. So netizens, you netizens went online to say, let's go longer. I don't know why. So he's Your Excellency.
His look, I mean, probably contributes to that kind of thing.
Okay. I love the way he was talking in Wike's manner. You know,
Vexing.
you know the Wike's manner. Anything we do, we must do it well. If we don't do it well, people will be angry. Anyway, no big gadus, wear yellow there. What is going on?
I was surprised when I saw him.
Social media?
I said, what is the Anambra State governor looking for here?
Yes, I saw that too.
Is this an AMGA rally?
No, he was part of the people. So he was not part of the 20. You see, there was a divide. He was not part of the 20. All the people you saw there were those who were saying, how do you just change? You know? When I said Wike can't win this, his enemies full APC. Some people, they argue it's about 2031. Okay, all right. Let's move on to, if we have another tweet, Nigeria is not a zoo, always having some strong comments to put out there. Anyway, that's all we're going to take on this story. Let's wrap things up. We have very few more minutes to go. If you recall, in an interview that was done by a former Rivers State governor, we're still staying in Rivers very quickly.
And the former Minister of Transportation.
He was interviewed, of course, by a media outfit where he was asked by the presenter that, okay, why during this coalition process, why don't you guys just throw your weight behind one person and then maybe you can go for the VP slot? And then he came out from nowhere.
Boiling.
Said, don't try that.
Don't take our word.
Just watch the
video. Going to beat that guy.
Just watch the video.
Many thought that you people will agree under ADC to a consensus. Maybe one of you will just go, then the other one, maybe, most likely you. As a vice presidential.
Will you stop that nonsense?
No, it's not nonsense. People are saying it.
It is. Stop that.
No.
Stop that. I'm frank. Please stop that.
Will you take, okay, let me put it the other way. Will you accept to be vice president?
Please stop that. I didn't buy form to be vice president. Don't you ever repeat. Don't you ever.
I'm not saying it. It is people who are working for you. I mean,
who are the people? I can show you millions of people who are also thinking that. Who are those talking about?
This is without prejudice to you being eminently qualified to go for the ticket.
Idris.
Yes.
This interview is about presidency. If you want to interview vice president, can I step down so I can get the vice presidential candidates and interview them?
Oh, no, I don't want you to go. I want you to answer the questions. Maybe you tell Nigerians that at no time you will accept that.
If you want to interview vice president, can I step down so I can bring vice president?
We will bring them later. You know, it's like a debate. I'm representing Nigeria, Your Excellency.
So when you're ready to interview vice president, you go and call them.
Okay. Have you
Okay, but guess who is going for the vice president ticket now.
Tell me about it. Who is that?
For real?
I haven't heard. Who is the person?
Who's the person? Let us know. Tell us, Joe. Joe, tell us.
Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for His Excellency.
No, stop it, Joe.
Former governor.
If you want vice president.
Wow.
Former Minister of Transport.
Look at that.
The way they
Look
say
at God.
waiting Musa no go see forget is the way they should say waiting journalists no go see for politicians' hand. The one thing you must learn in this Nigeria is that you believe politicians at your own risk, at your own peril. And politics is quite like football. Anything can happen. Never say never.
Anything.
One person who comes and makes a point today, in the next 24 hours, the powers that be, forces can move and things will change. Ultimately, politicians will always do what benefits them. And I hope that citizens will do the same.
It's really sad. It's sad, honestly. I know it's quite funny, but it just tells us where we are. And it's not a good situation where a politician tells you something and you're not even sure of what the person is saying. That's really sad, because normally politics should be about, you know, what people stand for, what this person believes in. But we can't even tell what this person believes in, because this person will say A today and the next day they will say B, and it's normal.
I'm not surprised.
Like,
I just think that that's how politics is. Not just in Nigeria, to be fair. Politics. No,
but in other countries, I don't think it's that way. You see, if someone is, at least in America, if someone is a Republican, you can tell what the person stands for all through. Not switching like you're moving from one TV station to another, TV channel to another.
My brother, one of our callers says, politicians are even surprised.
The Nigerians believe them.
They say, that when they do something, they go back and say, they chop them. They believe. Unbelievable. So they're always shocked. And I'm sure that, this is just a clarity. Let's see what X is saying very quickly. We'll have tweets on X so we can move on. We'll have a lot of conversations today.
This one is from Shea Phil says, who wouldn't want to win a race unless a pretender? Definitely he did his calculation that he will win and thrown his heart in the ring. And when he didn't, that shouldn't make him scatter the platform. Amechi is an honorable man. Oh, really? Okay. Mega Flexin says, this is so funny. Even funnier to learn he later accepted to be vice president. Defender says, I didn't buy the form to be vice president. Will you stop that nonsense? I settled for VP. This one says from Ortega.
Oh, this is Ortega. This is an essay to the president.
Oh, Ortega.
It says, to those laughing at Amechi for taking the VP role, I actually suspect it must have been a very tough decision for him. For a man to whom President Bola Ahmed Tinubu extended a hand of partnership ahead of the 2023 elections, only for him to fail to stand with the Renewed Hope campaign and then watch himself drift into the darkest corners of political history. This may well be his one serious chance at relevance again. You must give Atiku credit, though. From Kenneth Okonkwo's outburst today, it is looking increasingly clear that AA may have allowed Peter Gregory to believe for the better part of 3 years that a VP slot was still somewhere on the table. I say this because AA was never going to allow anyone take the presidential ticket in AA's daycare, also known as the ADC. Maybe CRA was the choice all along. If so, then well played, Maradona AA.
Anyway,
are we done?
We have one from High Chief Lawrence. Says Rotimi Amechi almost fought on live television because he was asked if he would accept the VP role in ADC. Today, he's celebrating being VP. Politics go humble you.
Absolutely. Signed and sealed. Well, that's pretty much all that we can take on Wake Up Conversations. I think we have a comment. Mokechu Komeka on YouTube says, I am too presidential to be a VP candidate that will pretend, but want to be in power at all costs. Politicians in Nigeria will never change. He goes on to talk about Wike said the same and lobby to be VP to Atiku in 2023. But let's know your thoughts on some of the stories. We have major conversations to have today on Breakfast Central. Feel free to drop a comment or two. We're streaming live, don't forget. And also, at a point in time, we'll open the phone lines for you to also join us via phone calls. Let's look at our top stories for today on a Wednesday morning.
Someone said we are very gossipers. Joseph Nwagba says, you people are very gossipers. Leave Amechi alone. Okay. In the absence of sliced bread, eat agege bread. Okay, let's now go to top stories.
So what did he just do now?
I don't know.
Let's go on our top stories.
Let's go to top stories. Our top stories this morning. Appeal Court stops INEC from deregistering ADC and others. They're implementing the stay of execution. We'll also be analyzing Nigeria's judicial system, looking at how our courts play a critical role in upholding our democracy. Court revokes Omoyele Sowore's bail, issues arrest warrant over trial absence, abandoned drainage project. Fagba residents lament months of hardship. And we'll review the newspaper front pages, opening the phone lines then, and then giving you an opportunity to call in. Stay with us for all these and more on Breakfast Central.
Welcome back. The Court of Appeal in Abuja has unanimously suspended the judgment of the Federal High Court, also in Abuja, presided by Justice Peter Lifu, which ordered the registration of the African Democratic Congress, the Accord Party, and other political parties pending the determination of the substantive appeal before it. In a ruling delivered by a three-member panel led by Justice A. Mohammed, the appellate court faulted the trial court for proceeding to deliver judgment despite a subsisting order of the Court of Appeal, directing that proceedings be stayed and describing the action as a brazen disregard for judicial authority, which it termed judicial rascality. The Court of Appeal subsequently granted the applications before it and ordered a suspension of the execution of the judgment pending the determination of the appeal, while adjourning the matter to June 25, 2026 for continuation of hearing. Let's just take a look.
The court looked at it and considering what they have, or the order they have made on the 22nd, directed that his judgment that was delivered yesterday be suspended, pending final determination of all appeal arising from this matter. Due to the INEC timetable and considering the fact that the election is approaching, the court has fixed the 25th of this month for all pending application to be determined on the final.
From the moment the appeal was entered at the Court of Appeal, the Court of Appeal became seized of the jurisdiction in that matter to the exclusion of the Federal High Court. So the Federal High Court has no jurisdiction to have sat over the matter and delivered the judgment that it delivered. And the Court of Appeal, in its own wisdom, granted an order staying execution of that judgment.
Election is not an event, it is a process. The day the timetable was rolled out by INEC, INEC already know who and who will be part of the process of election. Parties have gone around the 36 states of Nigeria, conducted primary elections, spent money, wasted resources, and then some faceless people who come and say they are, what do they call them? Former legislators who have failed this country, that we are trying to fix this country. Democracy is about inclusion. It's about the people.
You have the IPAC representative. He said a lot. But then again, joining us here live in the studio, and of course, we'll have another guest joining us via video conferencing. We have Mr. Dotun Ojon, of course, a public affairs analyst and one who has tested the waters in politics as well. Hopefully, he's going to test it again come 2027. We do not know. But Mr. Dotun Ojon, when you see things like this, wait, let me just ask, why is it that the name Justice Peter Lifu, whenever it comes up, Nigerians are always worried because what's going on? What's really going on? The appellate court says stay of execution, while all of a sudden from nowhere, you know, we now see Federal High Court taking a decision on a subsisting case.
Okay, so the major challenge will not even be to political or to legally extract what has happened, but I think it will now be communicating the consequences of the actions that men take. And when men continue to take a certain actions without repercussion, you create an impression that anything can be done without any kind of punishment. And again and again, we'll continue to appeal to the Judicial Commission that when a thing like this happens, I'm not the one that said the judicial rascality. It's not the first time that this thing is happening. I think that the commission should wake up to its responsibility, because when you say a community does not have hope, it doesn't mean that the government is not executing project. It just means that they cannot run to court and get justice. So it means that whatever the way we may look at it, the justice system in any community remains the hope giver.
Okay, so the question is, what would be the implication of this? You know, in the long run, the idea of opposition, of having an opposition coalition, is it safe to say that that idea is dead on arrival at this point? We have few months, less than few months to the general elections, to the presidential and gubernatorial elections. The concept of the ADC, for starters, was to be able to have a formidable opposition force. PDP doesn't look like it's that opposition. Yes. So are we going to say that if this judgment is implemented, it's a smooth sail for the APC?
Okay, so first is that we must make it very clear to the people in the community that all the parties that have been listed will make it to ballot. That assurance is necessary because there are appellate options. And by the time you continue to explore all of these options, we'll have done election. If they like, after the election, they can deregister the party, and people will move to whatever party they want to move to. And I think people are not careful about reputation. They just want to run a government and win election. This judgment today is not about the judge that gave the judgment. It's about the party in power. I've been a member of IPAC for a while, and I saw the national chairman speaking yesterday. He was very critical of the government of the day, despite the fact that it was not the president that sat in court. But every finger points to the government of the day, because you can just go back home and reason. Where will somebody be that emboldened to the point of going against the decision of an appellate court? So all of these conversations is that it's becoming extremely suspicious. You know, the conversation of one-party system came up the other day, and politicians just said, oh, let us just gloss over that and let that lie low. But the truth is that political parties in Nigeria have major issues. And I keep saying it. If you've ever sat to run a political party in Nigeria, you will understand what I'm saying. In 2019, there were over 90, I think about 91 or 92 political parties in Nigeria. One of the reasons why INEC deregistered 74 of them was because of non-performance. What is the definition of non-performance? If you cannot get 25% in presidential election in any of the 36 states, including the Federal Capital Territory, if you cannot get any member in the National Assembly, you cannot get any member in the State House of Assembly, you cannot get any member in the council, you cannot get a chairman or a vice chairman or a councillor, then it is non-performant. But all of these political parties that are listed today have one or two people in power as we speak today. So I don't know whether they just want to make this an academic exercise, because at the end of the day, in 2027, I see a lot of this political party winning election because of what they are doing presently. So I am not afraid that anything might happen. In fact, they have options to exhaust up to the Supreme Court. But the assurance I have is that these political parties today will make it to ballot in 2027, and there will not be basis for deregistration by INEC after the election.
Now, when we look at, of course, the setup of democracy, we know that judiciary plays a vital role in the whole setup. And of course, if you look at what happened last election, where, you know, the case, there was a presidential election tribunal after elections, we're likely going to see that happen in 2027. With judgments like this that have been carried out by the likes of Justice Peter Lifu, who I think should know better as to what he did, what does this say about the judicial system of Nigeria right now? Everybody has talked about the judicial system, and we are not just critical of the judicial system. We are only appealing that when you say the hope of a common man, it means that the other component of democracy can fail. But once judiciary fails, then you've put the community in crisis. So what we're continuing, in fact, when people get to, there's never been an election where people go to, go to court and they come back happy. There's never been an election. They've always been accusation as to, oh, they will tell you that they knock out a case on the basis of technicality. What's technicality when it is overwhelmingly clear that there were malpractices during election? So again, our democracy may not be able to stand well if the issue that we have with our judicial system is not, and it's not just about one person. People, see, the conversations that I hear, there are conversations you cannot bring on television, of people who talk about bribe, of people who talk about how they manipulate the process, of people who talk about all manner of things that they do because they want to retain a win or because they want to get a win through the court. As we have it now, as we are tidying up our process of electioneering, we must also lay a particular emphasis
on the need for judiciary to also tidy up so that we will not come on television to make them a point of conversation at every point in time.
Very tough times we find ourselves. We've heard the word judicial rascality, and it seems like it's rearing its ugly head again. However, just a few hours ago, maybe 48 hours, the Chief Justice of Nigeria did come out to say, listen, judges should learn how to have self-control. They should go ahead and ensure that they do not do things that the justice system would frown at. I mean, there's a lot that was said from that meeting. But it turns out that barely just 24 hours after that gathering, here we have someone who has come out. So there are calls that, oh, okay, it should be sanctioned, it should be this. How can one person have so much power over a whole decision that's made by Nigeria's judiciary system? Where do you think we need to draw the line? It seems pretty much that the political space, I mean, you're a politician, I mean, whether you like it or not, political space is starting to have more power in controlling what the judiciary should actually be. How do we draw the line now?
So let me tell you the intention of the politician as we have it in Nigeria today. The intention of the politician is to corrupt our system so that they can benefit from it. They want to replace the people by all means, because democracy is about the people. They know people will come out to cast their ballot to vote for them. So what they are trying to do is to replace the people by corrupting the system. Once they corrupt the system, they don't longer need the people. 10 people can line up here, and the person who has 2 behind him will win election once they are able. And what are the targets? Number 1 is the police system. They want to corrupt the police system so that they have a say at every point in time at the direction that the police is going. Police is central to our democracy. And once the politician is able to corrupt the police, the community people cannot do anything. The second one, which is perhaps more important, is the judicial system. They know that at the end of the day, if they are unable to do whatever it is that they want to do with the police, the other thing they have to corrupt is the judicial system. And they are doing this daily. And that's why you see, you will see a judgment in Abuja. Within 24 hours, you will receive another one in Ibadan. Before you hear of Umahia, you hear of another city like that. So it is the politician. And we must get to a point. And I've said it before. I said the only power the politician has in Nigeria today is money. When they want to derail the system, they throw money. When they want to frustrate any system, they throw money. When they want to, anything they want to do, they throw money. And that's why when a case like this, when a judgment like this comes, everybody is smelling, where's the money coming from? Because they think, the people have known that it cannot be ordinary. Now, it is very easy to throw money around in a system like this because majority of the people are living below the poverty line. Is it the civil servants you want to talk about? Even the people in the judicial system, they can no longer pay house rent. Because in Abuja, for example, now, for you to get a good place, you have to pay between 6 to 10 million naira. Likewise in Lagos. So poverty makes the system very vulnerable to the politician to manipulate. And that's the advantage they take. And that's why when you have conversation around, oh, salary, everybody is cringing because they don't want anything to affect the money that comes to them. Because they know that without money, they will not have control over the people. And they are trying to use money to replace the people with a corrupt system.
What of the fact that the AGF, the Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Fagbemi SAN, is in support of these suits to the registered political parties?
Just he's a plaintiff.
Yeah,
so all of a sudden
he's saying that, that these non-performing political parties will inflate the ballot. He's giving several reasons why they should be deregistered, and that it will lead to a constitutional breach if INEC does not deregister them. I'm going to read out some of the things that he said. Okay, I can't find it now. But I know that he had said that it would lead to yes, he said it will inflate ballots, it will burden public funds, it will complicate election administration and undermine the constitutional intention. He said he refers to them as non-performing political parties. I'm saying that, there's an expectation for these political parties in terms of what the Constitution provides. And if they're not meeting what these expectations are, then they should be deregistered.
Now, let's be very clear on the definition of non-performing. Nobody took INEC to court in 2019 before they deregistered in 2020. When I came aboard, I have told you the definition of non-performing. It is when in any of the state, you cannot get 25% in a presidential election, or you cannot produce a legislator at the national or the state level. You can't produce a governor, a deputy governor, or even a chairman at the local government, or even councillor. So when you get to this point, nobody needs to beckon on INEC to deregister them. And when you talk about burden on public fund, I'm a bit worried about it. As a man who have actually run a political party, I can tell you that 2009 was the last time that the government gave any kind of assistance in terms of subvention to political party. They stopped that since 2009. So any political party you see in operation from 2011 to now means that these people are funding themselves. And let me tell you that before you register as a political party, that's why a lot of associations are taking their registration slip to INEC, and INEC is turning it down. There must be a bit of standing that such association must have, a spread. And I tell you that in as much as we can argue that we don't know a lot of political parties, any party that has the capacity to win one seat is no longer a small party. At a point in Kenya, they had up to 150 political parties. They brought it down now to, I think, about 90 something. I'm not saying we should copy that. But the truth is that to run a political party in Nigeria is extremely difficult because the system has made it very difficult. Have you ever asked yourself the question that why will a political party have the strength to register and will lack the strength to win election? Have you ever asked? Let me tell you one of them. The party in power always makes winning election very difficult for political party. What do I mean? They have allocation for election, and they have allocation for the day of election. So they come out on the day of election, apart from the normal threshold that INEC allows. They've done their campaign, they've done all manner of things. Then on the day of election, they will come out. They will begin to ask people to vote for them. And when you vote for them, they have a particular budget. I told you here, a southwestern state in Nigeria budgeted 2.56 billion naira to distribute on the day of election to get 500,000 votes. And that is an allocation of 5,000 per person. So now when you don't have this kind of money, you have a political party, you don't have this kind of money. And the people that line up daily to vote, they've tasted the blood of receiving money on the day of election. They are used to it already. New people are not coming into the political system. So traditional voters who are market women, organizers, and all of them come on the day of the ballot, and they are asking the new parties, what are you bringing? And you are saying there's nothing. So credible people cannot win election. Have you asked yourself, upon the way APC is treating its members, they screen out their former national secretary. They did all manner of things. They refused to give ticket to a sitting governor. Have you wondered why they stayed in the party? They cannot go. They stay there because that's the only party that can win election, because they know how they win it. So when a government now comes out to say, oh, party is not performing, you ask yourself, has anybody asked why this political party is not performing? I went to my village to do some few political meetings. And immediately one of them knew that our meeting was about politics 2 weeks ago. He sent me a message that I should buy him what we call Korokwe. Korokwe are those mini buses. And I did a voice note to reply to him after about 1 week. I said, if I can buy you Korokwe, then my father should be riding a Rolls Royce by now. Oh. So that's what the electorate expects. So now, because of the expectation of the electorate, and this conversation I'm having is not about APC. It's about every party that has been in power in Nigeria. They have pumped out money to pocket of electorate to the point that electorate cannot stand on integrity and say, and apart from even giving money directly to people, they have made political process extremely expensive. I fought here and they heard in my state. You know, I fought here the other day when a young guy came aboard and made a press statement and said, before you post anything on billboard, the billboard that you have paid for, that you have to come and pay 1.5 million naira. Yeah. Some states are making it 30 million. Ekiti is over 20 million. Anambra did the same thing. So people in power has made the process very difficult to what we call smaller. And to be a small party is not an offense. In fact, can I shock you that there's no absolute number as to the number of political parties in the United States today? There's no specific number. But some of them made it to national prominence. Some of them will make it to ballot. Some of them will just remain in their circle. But they are all registered. So allow some of these states to, some of these political parties to play in the places where they have strength. Accord Party will play in 2027 now because of the influence of the sitting governor. And they will make a lot of these things. Young Progressive Party played in Anambra played in Akwa Ibom. Some other political parties, ADC played in Ondo. In fact, before the noise about Labour Party, before Peter Obi became to Labour Party won election in Ondo in 2007. So you will allow this political party to play in their communities, in their rural areas, once they are able to win one seat. Not these lies that we now begin, we now prompt people to go to court. INEC knows what to do. And I support the fact that after 2027 election, if any party does not perform, let INEC deregister such party. Not that government will now be prompting them before they do what is necessary.
Very interesting conversation. I mean, I wish we could go ahead, but talking about the judiciary, we have a senior advocate of Nigeria who will be joining us all the way from our Abuja studios. Extensive conversation on how the judiciary should actually take its place. It's interesting to have you join us, and would like to anchor this particular conversation here, telling you thank you as we prepare to head to Abuja to have that one. But before we do,
I must say thank you for taking the time and the sacrifice to come on TV on your birthday. Happy birthday from all of us here at Breakfast Central and all of us at News Central. Happy birthday.
Thank you. It's good to be here always.
It's always great to have you. All right. Let's now share with you what's coming up next on Breakfast Central. Coming up next on Breakfast Central, we'll be analyzing Nigeria's judicial system. We have our guest in studio joining us from Abuja. We're speaking about the court revoking Omoyele Sowore's bail and issuing his arrest warrants. He went on an Instagram Live yesterday about this, and we'll tell you of the trial of 400 terrorism persons, which has just commenced. Stay with us. Nigeria's judiciary is once again in the spotlight after the Court of Appeal suspended a controversial ruling by the Federal High Court that ordered INEC to deregister several opposition parties. The appellate court did not mince words, describing the lower court's action as judicial rascality and a direct affront to its authority. And this clash between two tiers of the judiciary raises serious questions about discipline, hierarchy, and the credibility of the courts in safeguarding Nigeria's democracy. Let's take a look at this video.
The court looked at it and considering what they have, or the order they have made on the 22nd, directed that his judgment that was delivered yesterday be suspended, pending final determination of all appeal arising from this matter. Due to the INEC timetable and considering the fact that the election is approaching, the court has fixed the 25th of this month for all pending application to be determined on the final one.
From the moment the appeal was entered at the Court of Appeal became seized of the jurisdiction in that matter, to the exclusion of the Federal High Court. So the Federal High Court has no jurisdiction to have sat over the matter and delivered the judgment that it delivered. And the Court of Appeal, in its own wisdom, granted an order staying execution of that judgment.
Election is not an event, it is a process. The day the timetable was rolled out by INEC, INEC already know who and who will be part of the process of election. Parties have gone around the 36 states of Nigeria, conducted primary elections, spent money, wasted resources, and then some faceless people who come and say they are, what do they call them? Former legislators who have failed this country, that we are trying to fix this country. Democracy is about inclusion. It's about the people.
Now, the heart of this debate is the integrity of judges themselves. Only recently, the Chief Justice of Nigeria charged the newly sworn-in justices to uphold honesty and resist compromise. Yet incidents like this cast doubt on whether those words are being heeded. Nigerians are asking, if judges openly defy appellate rulings, what does that mean for ordinary citizens seeking justice? And how much confidence can the public place in a system where judicial pronouncements appear inconsistent or politically tainted? Let's watch this clip.
You have started now, you ensure that you don't allow yourselves to be compromised in any way, shape, or form. You are judicial officers because you merit it, not because somebody put you there. So somebody coming to you to say, oh, this is my situation and so on, you tell them politely, I will deal with the matter as it is before me. And what I used to do, if you say you want to see me, come with counsel on the other side.
Now, joining us for this discussion is a senior advocate of Nigeria, Jibrin Okutepa. Mr. Okutepa, thank you so much for joining us on Breakfast Central. I'm going to start off by asking, how damaging is it when a high court judge openly defies the authority of the appeal court, especially where the issue of deregistration of political parties is concerned? On one hand, the high court said INEC should deregister despite a court of appeals involvement in the matter, where the appeal court eventually voided that order. Does such situation not erode public confidence in the judicial chain of command?
All right, thank you. I wish that we are not forced into this conversation because the hope of the common man, as has always been said, is the judiciary. But unfortunately, it appears that not only the hope of common man is seriously being eroded now, I think the hope of everyone appears to be hanging in the balance, except some few, if infinitesimal number of politicians. I am worried, and every reasonable Nigerian should be worried, that the judiciary is being put on the spotlight. The judiciary ought not to, because the role of the judiciary in democratic process cannot be overemphasized. Judiciary is one of the strong, if not the strongest pillar of democracy. Therefore, where judiciary appears to have been captured or appears to have allowed itself to be captured, then we are almost heading towards what appears to be a calamitous end in our democratic journey. And so I wasn't surprised that their lordships came down heavily yesterday, because in our laws and under the Nigeria Constitution, the courts are in the hierarchy. The Supreme Court stands at the apex. The Court of Appeal followed. Then you have the various high courts and federal high courts, national industrial courts, and the least being the magistrates and area court judges. And we have what we call precedents. Under our jurisprudence, the decision of the Supreme Court binds the Court of Appeal. The decision of the Court of Appeal binds the court below it. The court below the High Court follow the decision of the High Court. So once, therefore, there is an order of the High Court, the order of the Court of Appeal, the High Court must bow to it as a matter of necessity, because you must kowtow, you must obey, you must respect it if we are not to bring the judicial system into ridicule, into disrepute, into kind of a blockade that makes people to begin to laugh at us. And so I think the Court of Appeal was right in the decision they took, subject to whoever is not happy with it to go on appeal. And it's not even the first time that such a thing is done. The Supreme Court has on a number of occasions warned that we must respect the decisions and orders of superior courts, no matter how you feel that the order is not properly made.
Right. I mean, with our courts, the one thing that, like you said, judicial precedents, there is a hierarchy in our court system which determines that we do not step out of order. In this case, where we see that there has been a defiance of the Court of Appeal by the High Court, what would be the next steps? Are there procedures and processes that sort of deal with situations like this? What would be the natural next step?
Well, one of the natural consequences of what was done by the Federal High Court was the big choice of words used yesterday against His Lordship of the lower court. Next step, for those who are aggrieved, they will go on appeal. They may also take other extra judicial means that they deem fit to do. I will not advise them. They know what to do. They have their lawyers, and they must be in a position to do it. But let me say that the Nigerian judiciary need to do self-cleansing. Nigerian judiciary needs to advise itself. Like your earlier guest said, the Nigerian politicians want to capture everything. And the moment they finish capturing the judiciary, then democracy is gone. We need judiciary that is bold, judiciary that is courageous, judiciary that is independent, not in theory, independent in terms of how they decide, independence of not allowing themselves to even be spoken to. When I heard the Honorable the Chief Justice of Nigeria saying that when they approach you, in fact, if I were to sit as a judge and you attempt to approach me, I will know what to do with you. Let the judiciary begin to wield the big sticks. Gone were the day where people were sent to prison for contemptuous behavior. Today, everything goes. So we need to take a look at even the caliber of people that will recruit to the bench. When a man or a woman does not possess strength of character, cannot resist temptation, no matter the pressure, then such a person will be unfit to be on the bench. So there are so many things that appears to be wrong with us. And I think the politicians know the power of the judiciary. And so they are now doing everything humanly possible to whittle it down. And they have started doing so by their quest to interfere in the process of recruitment. And once the judicial process of recruitment is faulty, and what you know seems not to matter but who you know, then the judicial independence is mortgaged at that stage of our process. So I would think that the judiciary and indeed the legal profession need to have a rethink. We need to be far above, like Caesar's wife, above board, because the way things are going, we are not likely to have judiciary that people will respect. That's why I call on the leadership of the legal profession that we have had enough. We have had enough. We are the only one that the Constitution has given the power to decide and to adjudicate, to resolve disputes. So in the process of deciding, resolving disputes, we should not create more problems for Nigerian society.
Okay. I mean, you said enough. Enough is enough, as it were, if we're to interpret your statement, and the judiciary needs to be fixed. 14 new judges were actually, introduced into the system. We did see that when the Chief Justice of Nigeria also made that statement, telling them that they need to be disciplined, they need to ensure that they uphold the tenets of course, the laws and so on. But my question would be, in the past few months, we have seen interpretations that have also been either confusing or some situations where a political party would leave his state and then run down to another state and quickly get a court injunction. And it's just happening back and forth. what does this portend for the judiciary? What does this, what kind of standard does this set going forward?
You already answer yourselves in the question you put. Given the question you have put yourself, you are doubting whether or not indeed the purity of justice, the credibility of the judicial process can be defended. So in my view, I think the problem we have is that there are no consequences for misconduct in this country. I think we just pat people at the back for little, I don't know how to put it, but until we begin to sanitize by giving adequate punishment to those who have desecrated the stream of justice in this country, so will the system continue to encourage indiscipline, disobedience, and all sorts of things. Because let me say that the judiciary and indeed the legal profession supposed to be a profession of purity, a profession of noble men and women of virtues, that anything that appears to suggest a contamination of the stream of justice must not even be allowed to come close to that stream of justice. That is why mere appearance of impropriety is sufficient for a judicial officer to disqualify himself from adjudicating over a matter. But today, we seem to have over-legalized our rights at the expense of the ethics and nobility of the profession. So much so now that not only do we allow and encourage appearance of impropriety, we defend it with legalistic jargon that has already contaminated the stream of justice in our system. So the National Judicial Council, the Honorable Body of Benchers, the Nigerian Bar Association, and all of us, leaders of the profession, must, to borrow ecclesiastical word, be born again. A lot is going on that people tend to think that the problem of this country is the legal profession. And let me warn, if the heaven caves, everyone will be a victim of that calamitous end. So once we have pushed the people to the wall and they no longer have respect for us, they no longer see the judiciary as the hope of the common man and see the judiciary as the problem of the society. When people want to exercise their God-given power and take him to the street, the next victim, and the most victim that will be first attacked may be the members of the legal profession, both the bad, the good, the ugly, and the best. So it is therefore in the best interest of the legal profession that we go back to the roots of purity of the profession, where a judge will not go to the airport to welcome anybody, where a judge will not go to any gathering to be idolized and praised, where we don't celebrate our judicial officer even when they are appointed. Because today, we seem to have allowed this society to enter into us. And there are some things that are normal, that are not normal when it comes to the purity of the profession. And we must go back to that root of the adjudication, where when judgment is delivered, ordinary people will not subject that judgment to their own interpretation. A judgment of court must be clear, it must be lucid, it must be understandable by everybody, and resolving issues rather than compounding issues. But where we begin to propound principles of law that put spanner to the attainment of substantial justice, then the end of justice is in sight.
Mr. Okutepa, thank you so much for, of course, suggesting the fact that we need to go back to judicial purity. However, I want us to look at the influence of the executive now, because the truth is welfare is very, very important, especially when it comes to the judiciary. And in recent times, we've seen that, justices have been rewarded with, houses, and of course, their salaries have even been increased. How do we draw the line, and how do we achieve judicial independence, whereby the judiciary can run by itself and also take care of itself without necessarily being influenced by the executive?
We must all agree that the Nigerian judiciary should be independent. And I think that informed the amendment to the Nigerian Constitution that introduced Section 121 of the Constitution that talks about judicial independence, money meant for the judiciary to be released to the judiciary and for the judiciary to manage its affairs. I have consistently made my position known that it does not lie in the power of the executive to buy cars, build houses, and give to the judiciary as if they are doing them favor. It is their entitlement. And there must be a system where if you desire to build houses, buy cars for judiciary, the judiciary must itself be in a position to arrange this and do it for itself. Because by the time we begin to buy cars and give to the judiciary, build houses and give to the judiciary, the perception that houses, those cars, and all those gifts are indirect way of interfering will not be easily taken away from the heart of the people. We are talking about perception, and perception is very important in adjudication. Once a judge or the judicial officer presiding over a matter is seen to be hobnobbing or going into a meeting with a will-be litigant, the perception is that after all, they have bought them a house, they built them a car, and so on and so forth. So there must be an arrangement where the money that they are using to build for judiciary and be showing off that they are favoring judiciary should be given to the judiciary. After all, let me say this, and I do not intend to be misunderstood as insulting anybody, but let me be honest with you that it is only the judicial arm of government that has a defined qualification. So you can't find secondary school or its equivalent sitting on the bench as a judge. We must have gone to the university, gone to the Nigerian law school, practiced law for not less than 10 years in case of a high court judge, not less than 12 years in the case of a justice of court of appeal, not less than 15 years in the case of justice of the Supreme Court. How do you then think that those people who have gone through this rudiment of training are not sufficiently knowledgeable enough to manage their own affairs? It must be you that will build houses for them. It must be you that will buy cars for them. All this is executive domineering. And I think that when a slave is being maltreated, it is the same slave that will extricate itself from the masters, slave masters. I think I call on the judiciary to come to the rescue of this country, come to the rescue of this nation, come to the rescue of democracy. They should not legitimize an otherwise illegitimate process that produced a politician. And so technical justice must give way in 2027 to substantial justice. In electoral jurisprudence, where caricature adjudication takes place instead of adjudication that is rooted in substantial justice, politicians will be emboldened. And Nigerian judiciary has done it before. Gone were the day where politicians sat in the brothel in the hotel to impeach governor. It took the intervention of the Supreme Court for that rascality to be nipped in the bud. It also took the Supreme Court of Nigeria the boldness to install Amesi because Ararume was ordered, won his case, and the political party said they have expelled him. So the Supreme Court has risen on so many number of occasions to save democracy from collapsing in this country. Time to do so is now. And I call on them to do so by going through some of the principles they have laid down that is encouraging politicians to do what they are doing. Because Nigerian politicians can do anything and just anything to stay in power. They grab it, they hold it, and they don't want to use it for the betterment and the goodness of Nigerian people. But the judiciary should act its check and balances on political rascality in this country by delivering judgment that contain element of justice, not judgment devoid of justice.
I just want to ride on what you've said and follow up the question that my colleague had asked. When we're looking about what the actual independence of the judiciary will look like, flowing from the picture that you've painted, are we also going to revisit the conversation about how the judges are appointed in terms of the executive's input in how the judges are appointed? Is that a conversation to be had?
Of course, the recruitment process to the bench needs to be fine-tuned, needs to be looked into. As a matter of fact, if I were to be the Chief Justice of Nigeria and you have indicated interest to come to the bench, if anyone, be it a religious leader, politicians, your village people, influences me to allow you to come to the bench, you are disqualified. Because prior now, nobody influenced anybody before you are appointed to the bench. The judges that are sitting will watch you as a legal practitioner, watch your character, your demeanor, your mien, your comportment, and how you have also related with the bench and the respect you accorded them, and you are found worthy in knowledge and character and comportment to come to the bench. You are invited and say, Mr. Okutepa, tomorrow you are crossing to this other side of the divide. And it was an honor, it was a privilege to be sitting as a judge. Remuneration was not an underlying factor because integrity of a judicial officer is very important, it's very crucial to adjudicatory processes. There are judges in Nigeria that cannot be approached. There are many of them. Only infinitesimal number have given names to the judiciary. I am not saying Nigerian judiciary is bad, no. But few that are good, those that are good, sometimes cannot talk because they are not meant to talk. So that's why it is important we hold this kind of conversation. It is important that the Nigerian Bar Association, which is the leading association of lawyers, should put heads together and ensure that our recruitment process to the bench pick the best of the best. When we fielded our worst 11, when the best 11 are at home, then you cannot expect to score gold in an Olympic or in a World Cup. So we are looking for World Cup of justice in Nigeria. Let the best of the best go to the bench and perform wonders. We should isolate judiciary from executive and legislative interference. And when I talk about independent, it must be real independence in terms of finances, independence in adjudication, independent in the provisions of everything they have. The money that they need to have must be given to them. And they haven't said that the judiciary itself must also be seen to be transparent in the running of the affair of its affairs. So where the judiciary itself is found wanting and then you have a crack in the wall, then you cannot stop lizard from coming to perch in that hole.
Okay. There's a major concern and a conversation that we must talk about. And that has got to do with, one, INEC. But before we go to INEC, I want us to look at this major one. 135 billion naira has been budgeted for post-election litigation. Now, it's said it's called electoral adjudication and post-election provision. What does this mean? Looking at 135 billion, who? Even before the elections have started.
Well, is it the Senate's Committee on Electoral Matters?
Yeah, I mean, they said it's from
to give to who?
They said it's for the judiciary, you know, for post-election litigation.
Or giving to INEC.
No, not to INEC. Not to INEC.
That budget. When you go into election, the only government body that require budget to defend election matter is INEC. Everyone that goes into an election is a candidate. Why should government make a budget for candidates that go into election in their individual rights? Nigeria needs to ask the Senate question, what is that electoral budget for litigation meant for? Is it meant to be given to INEC, for INEC to use it to pay counsel that he will engage? Or is it meant to be used by the executive to fund a member of the political party that belongs to government? Because when you see this kind of a thing, you begin to wonder, what sort of budget is that? Is that budget intended to give us good road, good infrastructure, good hospital, good social amenity? I don't think that head of budget is good. If it is for INEC, fine, because INEC naturally must be a necessary party to electoral litigation, both in pre and post-election matter. So if the budget is for INEC, fine and good, then it should be given to INEC. INEC then needs to be independent of distributing that money and paying to his counsel. But if it is kept with the executive, for the executive to use it as a bargaining chip, I think it is an unfortunate legislative job, poorly done, in my view.
Okay, so just to add to that, they said it's under the service-wide votes. It's actually a government contingency budget or fund just to look into the issues that may come up. The previous year, 2023, it was way below, but this year, ahead of 2027, they're planning for that. That also makes me want to ask about INEC right now, since whether you like it or not, you cannot take away Nigeria's election without looking at the independence of INEC and then the judiciary as well. INEC's role with the judiciary. Just recently, we saw what happened yesterday. INEC was told to deregister. Of course, we've talked about that already. INEC said no, they would not be able to do that. What is INEC's role? How does INEC stand out, especially when it comes to the judiciary, elections, and INEC? How can INEC really help the judiciary to actually maintain its respectful place in Nigeria's laws and also the way Nigeria operates?
Well, my first reaction would be that let INEC be INEC indeed, not in name. And a lot falls, therefore, on the shoulders of Professor Joash Amopiton, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. But a tree does not make a forest. I think there is a need for total reorganization of INEC apart from the headship, because Professor Amopiton cannot be in 36 states of the Federation. And so there is a need for a radical change. My experience suggests to me that most of the electoral malpractices are done with the connivance and active connivance of INEC staff on the field. And mark you, there are no permanent staff of INEC that man polling station as electoral officers, polling unit agents, and so on and so forth. When INEC wants to conduct election, they recruit ad hoc staff, NYC, some Nigerians that have no job. And so a lot depends on the credibility, the integrity, and the character of the electoral officers, the presiding officer, polling unit officers, and so on and so forth. When those people who are to go to the various polling units allow themselves to be manipulated, allow results to be written, and then they upload the written results without proper voting on at the polling unit, which is the pyramid upon which every other result of election is built, then the foundation of electoral transparency is thereby destroyed. So we need to critically look at whether INEC is properly staffed with a staff that can be trusted with neutrality, absolute respect for independent election, and that is not subject to monetary manipulation. Because once there is a dollarization and nairalization, permit me the coinage of this word, naira and dollar begin to play a role at the polling unit, at the collation center, then there can be no free and fair election, no matter how INEC chairman may be credible, because he needs these people to work with. And so we have sufficiently focused on the chairman. Let the chairman himself now begin to insist that if you are working in INEC, you must therefore be independent. second point is the point that I would think that anywhere INEC chairman notice that there is violence, it should cancel the result of the election. The use of beavers machine must be made very compulsory. And then we must devise a means for political party agents who themselves sometimes are of double face, unfortunately. Because when I was in this studio, I listened to your other guests speaking about money politics in this country. Nigerian politicians believe that what money can do, what money cannot do, more money can do it. And so, as long as we are worshiping money in this country and not integrity, not credibility, not honesty, and then honesty does not pay, then you are going to see that even if the chairman of INEC, he himself, 100% independent, the subordinate under him may fall his hand.
All right, Mr. Okutepa, something quite interesting happened with, of course, after Justice Peter Lifu's judgment, is the fact that INEC claims that it learned about the High Court's ruling via social media reports and not necessarily directly from the court. What does this tell us about transparency and, most importantly, communication between the judiciary and electoral bodies?
I'm not in a position to speak on that, but let me say this, that no court is to deliver judgments without putting the parties on notice, except they had notice of judgments and they stay away. So if INEC heard of the judgments by electronic means or by whatever means, it must have heard of the judgments. And so the purpose of the invitation is to tell you that judgment is to be delivered. And so once you heard that judgment has been delivered, so be it. So I don't think I want to make dwell so much and make heavy weather about it. But what worries me and what worries everyone is whether or not at the material time the judgment was delivered, whether it was delivered ex parte, was delivered on notice, whether his lordship of the trial court had notice of the staying of proceeding of the judgment by the Court of Appeal. Once he's aware of it, then that judgment ought not to be delivered.
Oh, okay.
All right. I also want us to touch on this issue regarding courts intermeddling with the affairs of political parties. Sometime in April 2026, I think it's Section 83, which bars courts from entertaining intra-party disputes or granting interim orders in such matters. We often hear those arguments being brought forth when there are inter-party activities. Some have argued that the court is being used to manipulate what happens between the party, and the defense is always, look, the courts should not involve themselves with the matters that concern party leadership. How do we navigate this discourse?
Well, the principles of law of very considerable antiquity that I know is that leadership recruitment of political parties or how parties arrive at the choice of their candidates is not within the purview of the jurisdiction of the court. The Supreme Court says so in Honor versus Okafor as far back as 1983. So it is only of recent that the Nigerian judiciary has been given a limited power and jurisdiction to interfere in the process that led to the choice of candidates in the political party to represent political party, and that is in the Electoral Act, is in the Constitution. So the jurisdiction of the court, in my view, is limited to whether or not in the process of selection of candidates to represent the various political parties, the parties themselves comply with the provisions of the Electoral Act, the provisions of the Constitution, and the guidelines of the political party in the choice of those candidates to represent them at the poll. And the reason for this interference, in my view, was to ensure that those who emerge from political party to represent the parties at the poll go through a procedure that is transparent, that is credible, that follows the law, and that there's no hanky-panky. But these days, some people just wake up when they quarrel in their party and they don't like the other persons, they go to court and say he's not supposed to be the one to be in the party. The court of law has no jurisdiction to select for the political party who the leaders of the political party is supposed to be. And so I'm worried that sometimes the courts just assume jurisdiction in all manner of cases without filtering and looking at the justiciability of the matter before it. So a time has come that we also need to have a judicial education for the various heads of court, particularly the Federal High Court, that has now been solely with pre-election matter, to have a look at what is being filed. There should be a system in the registry to look at the process file, look at the law, whether or not these process files fall within this narrow limit of justiciability of a dispute that is recognized under the Electoral Act and under the Constitution. In a situation where courts entertain all manner of political disputes is what is bringing the judiciary into a serious collision with the opinion of the public that makes the judiciary now to appear not to be too marketable in the sight of reasonable men and women of this country.
Well, I think we've been able to touch on some of the very critical aspects in the conversation, looking into Nigeria's judiciary, legal matters, and what it means for every single Nigerian, from the political space down to the forthcoming elections in 2027. We cannot thank you enough, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Jibrin Okutepa, for joining us this morning in our Abuja studios. Thank you so much for sparing us the time and discussing these issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and God bless you all.
Bless you
too.
Thank you.
Wow. Away from that, let's talk about the G7 summit. It's heading into its decisive final hours. And if you recall, right from Monday, our correspondent has been on the ground covering the entirety of everything taking place, especially there in France. Today's focus definitely is on the outcomes that could emerge from the summit, the unresolved issues that continue to divide member nations, and not forget to the final communique that will signal just how much common ground has been found. Yesterday, Donald Trump was speaking tough, talked about nuclear and the likes of other countries, begging and the agreements to look into, plus not forgetting to the Strait of Hormuz. Definitely would be a conversation that must have been had. But joining us live from the summit venue is News Central's senior international correspondent, Afua Hagan, joins us this morning. I'm not going to say bonjour to you because I know your French probably has been polished this morning before you ask me another question and I cannot respond. I'm just going to say good morning and welcome. Tell us, after days of high-level talks and diplomacy, what should we be watching out for today, and what impact could be final decisions? What can they have on the global stage?
Bonjour. I have been practicing my French. In fact, I was going to do this whole live in French, and I've decided against that. However, what should we be watching for today is a good question. Look, it was a very busy day here at the G7 summit yesterday. We have had 6 declarations, 6 statements, 6 communiques from world leaders. I'm going to summarize them for you as best as I can. We had a declaration on tackling migrant smuggling. So the G7 reaffirmed its commitment to combating migrant smuggling, human trafficking and related organised crime. Leaders pledged to strengthen efforts to dismantle those criminal networks. We also had a declaration on the fight against drug trafficking. The G7 identified drug trafficking as a growing threat to security, public health and democratic institutions, as well as economic prosperity. Then we had a G7 leaders' political statement on geopolitical issues, where the G7 reaffirmed strong support for Ukraine's sovereignty and defence against Russia. And then a statement on the Middle East, where the US-Iran agreement intended to prevent Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons, and talking about those international efforts to secure maritime traffic through the Strait of Hormuz. We also had a statement on Ebola, countries reaffirming their efforts over the Ebola crisis, and particularly this new strain in the DR Congo and Uganda, reaffirming their efforts for a coordinated international response, a focus on health, on cancer, a warning that cancer cases could rise as much as 80% by 2050. The G7 promising more cooperation on fighting cancer. And then on international partnerships, G7 leaders pledged to reshape the global development system, arguing that traditional aid models have not always reduced dependency or delivered sustainable growth. So those are the 6 communiques that we've had so far. So I think today we can expect reaction to those communiques. We can also expect the final communique, the final declaration, with everything that has been discussed today here, well, yesterday at the G7 summit, and will be discussed here as well. And we can expect that later on today around 4 p.m.
All right, thank you very much for sharing those points with us, Afua. We've also had discussions around security, we've had discussions around trade and global economic stability. What major announcements are we expecting today?
That's a really good question. We've had some announcements already. How concrete are they really becomes the question, and what major announcements can we expect going forward? We haven't really heard anything on rare earth minerals, on climate change, on climate resilience, on artificial intelligence either. So I'm expecting to hear some declarations around those issues later on today. I think those will be in the final working sessions and the final communiques that we can expect to hear later on today. I think we can also expect to maybe hear more about the US-Iran peace deal. We know that's supposed to be signed in Geneva towards the end of this week, possibly on Friday. Now, President Trump said earlier on this week that that peace deal was very general. It's only about a page and a half at the moment. Those final details have not been hashed out, and perhaps we'll get some more information on what the details in that US-Iran ceasefire deal may be towards the end of today.
All right, Afua, I'd like to know, of course, at summits like this, how difficult has it been for, G7 leaders to present a united front, given the different political and economic pressures that they face at home?
I think a really interesting example of that was the family photo that was taken yesterday. So we managed to be able to watch the family photo being taken. It's very interesting to see who greeted whom, who was standing next to whom, who wanted to be in the middle. So President Trump didn't greet Lula, the Brazilian president. He also was angling to be in the center of the picture, but wasn't quite. President Emmanuel Macron looking supremely pleased with himself that he managed to get all these people in the same room, greeted absolutely everyone. Sir Keir Starmer as well was greeting everyone. Giorgia Meloni, the Italian president, was very much off to one side. So I think the body language is really quite interesting to see when you see the leaders interact with each other. And then that translates into how much of a common ground do they have? How much have they managed to agree? I talked about some of the final communiques we might have later on, which may be about climate change, maybe about artificial intelligence and rare earth minerals. If we talk about climate change, for instance, we know the current administration in the White House is not a big believer in climate change, still calling it the great hoax. So many agreements that the other 6 leaders might have on climate change may not be underscored by the White House administration as president. And we also know that the US will take over the presidency of the G7 into 2027. So we have to be careful that any of those agreements that were reached in this G7 summit might not carry over into 2027. So that may be an area of discord, certainly. I've also mentioned before the United States and the UK may come to a disagreement over the UK's wish to ban social media for under 16s. That ban is going to come into force from spring 2027. It doesn't just cover social media, also covers gaming and other types of media as well. The US has already expressed concerns about that towards freedom of speech. So that may be an area of contention with leaders as well.
I know we've wrapped up, but I really want to ask on that particular topic. And I know you're in France now, and once you're done with the G7, you'll be heading back to the UK. But while you're in France, you're getting fillers from the people in the United Kingdom on the recent social media ban, which also impacts on gaming, like you rightly said. What are the people saying, especially with what you've heard? How are they reacting to it?
There's a lot of reactions actually to this ban on social media for under-16s, which will come into force in spring 2027. Now, there's a lot of people saying that, look, it should be up to parents to be able to decide and monitor how much their children are on social media. You have social media accounts, for example, on TikTok and Instagram, that are for 13 to 15-year-olds that have parental controls on them. Look, I myself, I have a 14-year-old daughter at home who has an Instagram account that is controlled by me. And I spoke to her about this last night, actually, and I said, what's your thoughts on a social media ban for under-16s? And she said to me, you know, a lot of people my age will probably continue using social media anyway. And all it means is it makes it much more desirable for young people. They'll wonder what it is that's on there that they shouldn't be seeing, and probably will reach for the darker corners of the internet that they wouldn't have gone to in the past if they'd had accounts that had parental controls, which I thought was quite an interesting view. And so there's a lot of parents who have been through some terrible things with their children on social media and who have welcomed this ban, and quite rightly so. There have been thousands of deaths that have been linked to social media in one way or another, and lots of parents have been campaigning for this ban for a long time. But then there is a school of thought that says actually social media companies should be doing much more to make sure that under-16s who want to use social media under parental controls are kept safe. But we have to remember, it's not in the interest of tech giants to make social media safe. It's in the interest to get as many eyeballs across social media as possible and to make the algorithms work so that they can gather as much data as possible. That's what it's about. And so there's been lots of different reactions from parents, from social media companies themselves, and of course from the under-16s, from those who are going to be most affected by this ban.
All right, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We'll reconnect with you much later, and we wish you a wonderful rest of the day. Au revoir.
Au revoir.
All right, let's now come back here to Nigeria. What was intended to bring relief to residents of Yomiare Street in Lagos, Fagba community, has instead become a source of frustration and concern. A drainage project launched to address years of flooding has stalled, leaving behind an unfinished site and growing hardship for residents. 6 months after contractors moved in, with assurances of a 3-month completion timeline, the road remains littered with debris and open excavations. In this special report, News Central's investigative reporter Temisa Amoye reports that the delay has exposed residents to safety risks, economic losses, and renewed flooding fears. Let's take a look at the report.
When contractors were mobilized in December 2025 to construct a drainage channel on Yomiare Street in the Fagba area of Lagos State, residents welcomed the development with relief. For years, they had battled persistent flooding caused by overflowing water from surrounding residential areas. The situation often rendered the road impassable, disrupted commercial activities, and affected the overall quality of life within the community. With both the state governments and contractors promising delivery within 3 months, residents were hopeful that a lasting solution was finally in sight. But 6 months later, the project remains incomplete. Residents say their plight has worsened as heaps of debris and excavated materials abandoned on the road have further deteriorated its condition, making movements increasingly difficult.
This road construction started in December by the state government. And the idea they gave us was that in 3 months that they will finish the drainage. The whole thing is about drainage. And since that December we have been on it. The construction started with drainage on this side of the road. And our hope is that they will be able to finish this one before going to the other side of the road. But all of a sudden, this one was not finished. They jumped to the other side, which they also excavated, and they did not finish it. If there is any emergency, there is no way we can take care of emergency, because everywhere is not passable.
The challenges extend beyond damaged roads. Several residents say they have sustained injuries while navigating the muddy, debris-strewn streets. Among them is a resident whose wife and daughter reportedly fell into the open drainage.
Children of this street, they are at risk. They cannot move freely. My baby fell down at that place. If, as I'm telling you now, my baby have not been going to school for over a week because she fell down as the result of the bad road. She fell down, she cannot walk. My wife was coming back from market yesterday. Because of how she was managing to pass the road, she also fell down. As I speak with you now, my wife is very, very illness. She's very sick now. She cannot go anywhere.
I fell inside gutter before.
Wow.
Even my son, yes.
So you and your son, you've personally...
Yes, we fell inside gutter. So they should please come and do it.
Parents in the community say they now live in constant fear for the safety of their children, particularly during the rainy season, when commuting to and from school becomes a risky ordeal through the muddy and slippery paths.
Because if rain fall like this, the rain comes like this, nobody knows where the gutter is. And we are even calling on government to come and do it. And if the government is doing it, they have to put slab on this. As you can see, if water flood the streets now, you cannot know that there is a gutter here. This can kill a young child, even an adult self.
Even before they could open that place, a lot of flies. You can see the green part of the gutter. So it really affects my customer and even smell sometimes. So they should come and do the project so that we can enjoy our road. In
the coming days, we hope to engage the special advisor to the Lagos State Governor on Works, Engineer Adekunle Olayinka, and the Commissioner for Environment, Mr. Tokunbo Wahab, to ascertain the status of the project and determine whether the delay stems from the contractor's failure to deliver or other factors within the state's implementation process. In the meantime, for the people of Yomi Arrest Street, their appeal to the Lagos State government is straightforward. Ensure the contractor returns to the site and completes the drainage project before more lives, livelihoods, and properties are put at risk. What was meant to bring relief has instead deepened their hardship. Their hope now rests on swift government intervention before another rainy season compounds an already difficult situation. In Lagos, for News Central, Temisa Amuye.
Very tough situation there in Fagba. We do hope that the local government chairman there and also the Lagos State government, the commissioner, would spring into action, or you say swing into action, regardless, so they can actually help them. But let's also mention that this might also be as a result, might be as a result of the fact that we did hear that budgets were not released yet to contractors. Maybe that would be the instance, but we do not know. But we do hope that something will be done. People falling, people getting injured, excavating the ground and then abandoning it, especially now that it's raining. You can imagine how horrible it would be to just walk past that area. Chiwetel, I don't know. Just imagining
it's really sad. And what really got to me was when I saw the picture of the pregnant woman, carrying that bucket and crossing. I'm just thinking, what if something goes wrong and she falls into that, whatever they call what they digged out? It's really a sad situation. I'm just hoping that whatever the reason is behind them, stalling on that project, they need to get the contractors back to site as soon as possible.
We hope so. Anyway, we'll go on a quick break. When we come back, Breakfast Central continues. We'll bring to you breakfast headlines. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us here on Breakfast Central. Let's quickly bring to you breakfast headlines very quickly. We begin by telling you that the federal government says it has no plans to introduce new taxes on telecommunication services or petroleum products, even though the stories have been flying. The federal government, in a statement, dismissed reports linking such measures to the IMF's Article 4 consultation report on Nigeria. The Ministry of Finance clarified that the IMF's recommendations are advisory and not binding on the government. It added that the federal government, the VAT, waiver on fuel remains in place, while the telecommunications exercise duty introduced before 2023 has been repealed. Away from that, the upper legislative chamber has suspended its recess and summoned senators to an emergency plenary session on June 23 to deliberate on Nigeria's worsening security situation and other urgent national matters. In a notice signed by the clerk of the Senate, Emmanuel, lawmakers were directed to reconvene at the National Assembly on the instruction of Senate President Godswill Akpabio. They recall comes amid renewed attacks and growing calls for decisive action to address the country's security challenges. Well, still on security matters, the federal government says it secured about 150 terrorism-related convictions on the first day of the latest phase of mass terrorism trials underway at the Federal High Court in Abuja. Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Lateef Fagbemi disclosed this while addressing journalists at the court complex, where he noted that approximately 160 cases were heard on Monday, resulting in at least 150 convictions. Fagbemi added that the proceedings continued with about 300 cases listed before 10 judges of the Federal High Court, with another 84 matters expected to be concluded before the end of the week. A bit of politics. Vice President Kashim Shettima has commended the Ekiti State Council of Traditional Rulers for sustaining peace and social cohesion, describing traditional institutions as vital partners in nation building. Speaking during a meeting with royal fathers, the Vice President said President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration is committed to strengthening collaboration with traditional rulers through greater consultation and expanded responsibilities aimed at promoting grassroots development, agriculture and economic empowerment. Chairman of the Ekiti State Council of Traditional Rulers and the Ogoga of Ikere Ekiti, Oba Samuel Alagbado, reaffirmed the royal father's support for Governor Biodu Oyebanji and President Tinubu, while promising to promote unity, security and stability across the state.
Into Ado Ekiti, we saw the outpouring of genuine affection for Governor Bao. We have been in this game for far too long, Your Majesty, to separate the wheat from the chaff. We can differentiate a rented crowd and a genuine outpouring of affection. I wish to call on the people of Ekiti to rally around this humble servant of the people and let us break the jinx. Ekiti has never re-elected a governor for a second term uninterruptedly. This is the first time, and Bao will serve the good people of Ekiti State.
I want you to please note that our governor is doing very, very, very well in the Ekiti State. It's a tested product. He has completed all the unfinished projects left behind by the predecessors in office. He has built bridges across party lines. The manager of human resources, the best man so far, as far as the history of this country is concerned.
Well, let's move away from politics now and tell you that the Nigerian Red Cross Society has called for sensitization on expected flooding, saying that it remains key to reducing the impact on vulnerable communities across the country. This was during a scorecard workshop in Abuja, where stakeholders reviewed the Red Cross program aimed at helping farmers and vulnerable communities prepare for floods, recover from losses and build resilience. They also called for sustained awareness campaigns, early preparedness measures, and coordinated interventions to lessen the devastating effects of flooding on vulnerable communities.
This year's prediction that we got from NIMET, NEMASA, and of course NEMA, we are working jointly to see that those people that may be affected by floods have taken necessary precautions against any eventuality. Obviously, farmers have been given some support, especially for where they can stock their farm produce safely that will not be affected by water. These interventions actually requiring support and collaboration from both the local government, states, and the national government. So it is important that we are being seen to work together, to collaborate together, that we can make a better or higher impact to those people that are affected.
You know, in the communities, most of the times they believe on local knowledge, where they have beliefs to say, if you see these builds or if you see this happening, just know that there's going to be flooding. But with this project, we have also supported these communities to put river gauges so that they can be able to measure the levels of water as it rises. And these communities, once they know that the water levels have started rising, they go around and disseminate the messages that there's going to be flooding that will be happening very soon. So once the community gets this message, they know what to do. If they have crops, they will have to harvest their crops. If they are living in areas where they know that it's going to be flooded, they immediately move from those areas.
Let's now take you outside Nigeria. Liberia's President Joseph Boakai has vowed to intensify the fight against drug trafficking following a major cocaine seizure. President Joseph Boakai says Liberia will not serve as a safe haven or transit hub for international drug traffickers after authorities intercepted around 240 kilograms of cocaine worth more than $19 million at Roberts International Airport in Monrovia. Describing the operation as one of the country's largest narcotics busts, Boakai vowed to expose and dismantle the criminal networks behind the trade. He said Liberia's anti-drug agency and police would jointly investigate the case to ensure all those responsible are brought to justice. And that's all we have for you on Breakfast Headlines. Stick around and don't forget to join Blessings Mosugu at 12 for the 12 report, where you get more news bulletin and, of course, more details and analysis. In the meantime, the front pages of the newspapers is up next. Get your phone lines ready and start calling when we come back after the break. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. Let's now take you through the newspaper front pages this morning and see what the headlines are saying. It's a rainy morning this morning on Breakfast Central. Let's start with Al Jazeera newspaper.
Right, the major headline here says, family arraigned for impersonating bandits. Interesting. On terrorism, DSS secures another death sentence as Katsina court convicts female arms courier. Father, children, grandchildren accused in Ogun. Okay, that's referring to the family arraigned for impersonating bandits. Banditry, Katsina shuts POS centers, bans petrol sales in jerry cans. It's quite interesting. Senate clears customs of 62.2 billion naira under remittance query. Looks like, Joe, when are we gonna stop hearing news of bandits? It looks like
no, it can't happen. It
keeps coming every single day. There's one update or the other as regards that. But anyway, moving on to other headlines in Al Jazeera. Appeal court halts judgment, deregistration of ADC and 4 others. 8 years after NCC reviews mobile termination rate, as on page 9. NDC candidates sign indemnity forms to prevent defections after election.
I like that story. That story came out yesterday. It showed the NDC chairman, if we want to call him that way, former governor of Bayelsa State, making it clear that every member, which includes His Excellency Mr. Peter Gregory Obi, former governor Mr. Rabiu Kwankwaso, I named them, every other person who has moved, if you've moved. And I think it is high time that all political parties toe the same line. So what do we mean here? I mean, as a journalist, if you, it sometimes is a bit confusing that while you're covering some of these stories and you're reeling it out to Nigerians, explaining, you have to tiptoe oftentimes because you may make a mistake in mentioning the current party that the individual belongs to now. I mean, take a look at Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, who's now with the ADC. Prior to that, there's PDP. Prior to PDP, there's APC. Prior to APC, there's SDP. Prior to SDP. So you keep going on and on and on. I mean, nobody says that you don't have the right to move. It's freedom. But what the NDC is doing now, they're saying, listen, the moment you become an NDC candidate, you cannot, let's use for better want of words, port to another party after you've gotten into that office through the ticket of the NDC.
This is very important, Joe, because remember what happened with the Labour Party.
Yes.
I think I want to believe that everybody who won on the Labour Party in 2023 was because of Peter Obi. There's some people who voted for people who didn't even know, but just because there was LP on that place, they just voted for the person. And what did they do after that? They got in there, and before you know it, they're moving to the APC, and you're wondering, this is unacceptable. So I see a party that is that looks like it's going to be well run. I see a party that will go beyond the elections.
Anyway, let's quickly run through the next paper. Let's go to the Observer's Times quickly, and then we'll go on a break. We have our guests here for this 9 o'clock hour, where we have some special conversations to look into. DSS secures another death sentence as Katsina court convicts female courier. If you follow that story, she's highly responsible for a lot of issues or things that have led to the death and so on, but you might want to read that. NCC begins review of mobile termination rates 8 years after. Even though the news, the federal government says they're not going to increase the tariff. But NCC is saying, well, do your own, let us do our own. 8 years, we've not reviewed costs. I remember one of the mobile network giants who said, it's appalling. They're still operating with the same costs after 8 years. Court of Appeal halts the registration of Accord ADC others. Slams trial judge for judicial indiscipline. That's Justice Peter Lifu. Over flouted orders. They said that's judicial rascality there. Judiciary itself is now on trial, Atiku says. And we also had a guest join us, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Jibrin Okutepa, who also made mention of judiciary being in a very slippery slope. Federal government secures conviction of 150 terror suspects in mass trial. Oshomole alleges forged signatures in Akpoti Udonha's suspension report. Court revoked Sowore's bail over failure to appear at trial. We're going to look at that story this hour. Federal government distributes 11,720 bags of fertilizer to FCT farmers. That's all we're going to take on the front page of the Observers. Olive, you want to run through the Punch very quickly?
All right, let's punch you with the front page of the Punch newspaper. Say no to violence.
Yeah,
2027 battle. Mark slams federal government after appeal court reverses ADC deregistration. We also have here Shetima Akpabio, 18 governors rally Ekiti people for Ibanji's re-election. Federal government releases barely 5% of 54.93 trillion naira 3-year road budget. 150 terrorists convicted in 48 hours, according to the Attorney General of the Federation. UK sanctions Nigerian firm linked to Russian finance network. At the top of the paper, NDC to bind Obi Kwankwaso with anti-defection oath. That is to say, swear. Swear say you no go leave us alone. It's giving marriage.
I like
when you go to the marital grounds, you do the wedding and you take an oath. For better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, till death do us part. Exactly. That's what NDC wants to do to Obi and Kwankwaso. Senate recalls members from recess over rising insecurity. Driver's death. Air Force detains officers, launches probe. States kick as Senate moves to amend Electricity Act. Just to add, I don't know about the legality of NDC being able to bind Obi and Kwankwaso from defection, as it then might be detrimental to their right to freedom of association. But we'll look into all that much later. Let's go on a very quick break. When we come back, we have some very important conversations to explore. Inibehe Effiong joins us in a moment, so please stay with us.
Welcome back. The Federal High Court has issued a ruling revoking the bail earlier granted to activists and publisher of Sahara reporters Omoyele Sowore and ordering his arrest. Justice Mohammed Umar issued a bench warrant after neither Sowore nor his counsel appeared in court for proceedings in the cyberbullying case brought against him by the Department of State Services. The charges stem from social media posts in which Sowore allegedly referred to Mr. President, that's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as a criminal.
The prosecution had already closed its case, with the matter now at the defense stage. However, disagreements over the conduct of the trial and applications challenging the judge's impartiality have contributed to delays in the proceedings. The development has reignited debates over judicial discretion, the limits of free speech, and whether criminal defamation and cybercrime laws are being appropriately applied in politically sensitive cases. Well, joining us this morning to unpack the legal implications of the ruling and what it means for civil liberties and the rule of law in Nigeria is human rights lawyer Inibehe Effiong. Inibehe, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Good morning. I was a bit surprised when I saw the update.
Yes.
Omoyele Sowore went on Instagram. He did an Instagram live detailing what had happened. Talk to us about the legal standpoint. I know you're not the judge that revoked his bail, but what is the implication of this? Would you say that it was a fair revocation? Or, your thoughts in general of what this means for civil liberties?
Thank you. The essence of bail law is to afford a defendant the opportunity to attend and stand his trial. When a court admits a defendant to bail, what the court simply does is exercising discretion, which must be verified both judicially and judiciously, based on the facts placed before it, based on the grounds upon which the defendant has made that application. Once a defendant is admitted to bail, there's a corresponding obligation for that defendant to attend his trial every day the matter comes up, save where explanation is offered for the absence of the defendant. That is the starting point. Now, this is a case where the defendant, Omoyele Sowore, to the best of my knowledge, has been consistent in attending his trial. I'm not aware that he has intentionally stayed away from the proceedings prior to Monday, the 15th day of June. Now, you are aware that on the last adjourned date, the proceedings before the one that came up on Monday, something quite dramatic happened in court. That was when Mr. Sowore appeared before Honorable Justice Umar and brought to the attention of the court that his lawyers, his team of lawyers, had withdrawn from representing him in the matter. He was left without legal representation, and therefore, at the last adjourned date, he was forced or had no option but to represent himself, where he moved the application asking my lord to recuse from further participating or presiding over the proceedings based on allegations of likelihood of bias or allegations of bias. The case was then adjourned for ruling to the 15th of June. On that date, Monday, my lord did not sit. Sowore was in court on that date. So almost about noon, when the registrar communicated to him that the court was not going to sit, he then sent an application, which was duly filed in court, informing the court that, please, I am proposing certain dates for this ruling to be delivered, because the proceedings of Monday at the court sat was not supposed to be for trial ordinarily. It was to be for ruling on the application for recusal of the learned trial judge. So the court failed to deliver that ruling because that day clearly was not convenient for the court. I would believe the court had other matters to attend to outside the presence or the four walls of the courtroom. That is in addition to the renovation that is going on at the premises of the Federal High Court. Why is this point important? It is important because we must understand that in deciding to revoke the bail of Sowore, this is a man who was in court the previous day. It is not as if he had just only disappeared from the court. He was in court the previous day. Now, the court now sat the next day. I'm not aware that a hearing notice was served on Sowore. I have spoken to him, and from what I learned, no hearing notice was served. I am not aware if he had actual notice that the court was going to sit on that day. But even if he did he just intentionally absent himself from the proceedings? Would it have been good for him to be offered an opportunity on another date to come and explain his absence? And if he fails, the court may then want to invoke his powers. But as I said, this is a matter of discretion, which the judge has exercised. I'm aware that Sowore is currently exploring some options. I should also mention to you that Sowore has been making efforts to retain a different team of lawyers to represent him, including a senior advocate of Nigeria who is in Lagos here, who I had the opportunity of having a meeting with yesterday in respect of this matter. So, all in all, I am hoping that some restraints will be exercised by the government in the way they are targeting Sowore in this matter.
All right, now when we look at this case, it revolves around, a statement allegedly made by Sowore as regards Mr. President. And I'm just here thinking, where do we draw the line between freedom of expression and criminal conduct?
Well, I have a principal position against criminalization of defamation. And I can confirm to you, I have practiced law. This is my 11th year post-call. I have never, ever written a petition against anybody on the basis of criminal defamation. On the contrary, I can also tell you, I am currently involved, and I have been involved in a number of cases bordering on civil libel. So we have a principal position against it. But then there are some provisions of the law. But let me also tell you, Sowore is not being tried strictly for defamation. It's being tried under the Cyber Crimes Act as amended for alleged cyber stalking under Section 24 as amended. And what is the allegation? That the comments that the Bola Ahmed Tinubu, it's a criminal in quotes, amounted to cyber stalking and was capable of causing breakdown of law and order. Whether any Nigerian had taken to the street with gun to attack anybody or felt provoked, whether there was rioting anywhere, or whether people are assembled to start destroying things. Because if you say breakdown of law and order, is it in the mind of the president that the law and order has broken down? Was it in a Wuse market that the law broke down? These are issues and facts that the prosecution would have had to prove. Whether they have done that, having closed their case, I do not know. But I'm just telling you that as far as the elements of the offense is concerned, it is not strictly a charge of defamation. What they are charging him with is cyber stalking. But let me further say that, to the best of my knowledge of the law, and I believe that is the correct position, the issue of the comments that he made, I do not think the law accords the president any special protection on account, virtue of his side, by virtue of his office. So it will not be different if the said comments were directed at Olive or if it was directed at me. I'm just making that point. So let nobody say, oh, because he was speaking to Bola Ahmed Tinubu, therefore that amounts to a crime. And if he had said it to Inibehe, it would not be a crime. As far as the language and the text and the intent of Section 24 is concerned, there is no special recognition for the person of the president. But again, as I said, I believe these are the issues that the court will have to look at. But Sowore is a politician, is a presidential candidate, is an activist. The person who is even the victim of this alleged offense?
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Did he make a complaint?
Well,
was the statement taken? Did he testify at the trial? These are the issues.
So maybe they are doing it on behalf of the office as opposed to the person.
Well, I don't know if busybody is now, something that we should accord serious attention to.
But wouldn't this have an impact on Sowore's 2027 presidential race?
No, it's already having an impact.
Because right now he's supposed to, of course, no one will be able to stand in for him. He has to stand in for himself.
Well, it's already having an impact. Why other political aspirants or candidates or would-be candidates are campaigning, consulting? Sowore is doing his own campaign in the four walls of the courts. Today is at the Federal High Court, tomorrow is at the... Sowore has become an unofficial member of the legal profession. Every day you see him at the court because the government keeps filing one case or the other against him. Some of the cases are actually very frivolous, right? Some of the cases simply do not make any sense. He goes on a peaceful protest, they arrest him, they charge him. He makes a comment, they arrest him, they charge him. It looks like the Nigerian legal profession is using Sowore, you know, for experimentation. And when I say legal profession, I mean the prosecution in this case. It's either the Ministry of Justice, the State Security Service, or the police. This man has been facing charges for how many years? Under the Buhari regime, he was detained since 2015 for years. He has not had the opportunity to see his family in the US. His passport was seized for over a year. He fought through the courts to have his passport released to him. And now his bail is being revoked. So I'm simply saying that you cannot have a country that is bedeviled with corruption, a country that the leadership has failed, a country that the basic indices of governance, economics, housing, health, education, social services have crumbled, and you don't expect to have the Sowores of this world. That is a dead country. A nation without a conscience is a nation without a soul. And a nation without a soul cannot survive. Those are the words of a very famous US president, former president. So I am saying that Nigeria must accommodate the Sowores of this world. Sowore is very essential in conscientizing the Nigerian people. Because what is special about him is that he can speak to the issues in a manner that a lot of people will shy away from. And whatever consequences comes with that, he's ready to brace up to it. But what I am saying is that Sowore is not above the law, but he must also not be treated as being under the law. He must be given fair and equal treatment before the courts. So I am hoping again that this revocation of bail, I am pleading with the courts to look at it again, because what is the objective at the end of the day?
To ensure that justice is not just done, but to be seen.
What is the objective? So I'm pleading with my Lord to maybe look at it again. If the appropriate application is made, a decision has not been taken yet from what I have learned, whether it should proceed on appeal or whether it should file an application to have this order set aside. But I'm really worried about some of the things we have seen. Don't forget that just a few days ago in Abuja, it was tear gas. A tear gas canister was shot at him. Yeah. Do not forget that Sowore has also been targeted before now, has also been shot at in the past. So we are seeing this as what looks like a renewed determination to silence him.
Okay, this then brings back the conversation about Section 24 of the Cybercrime Act.
Yes.
Sowore was also at the forefront of protesting against that Section 24, stating that it's subject to multiple interpretation and can be used as a tool for bullying, which I'm sure in this case would be part of his argument that he's been made a victim of the quote-unquote implication of Section 24. Is that a conversation that is still on?
Yes, it is on. We have a strong position against criminalization of speech. Because I have said, and I've argued this point in court, that free speech is useless if I am only allowed, Olive, if free speech entails, if freedom of expression is only meaningful if I am allowed to say what is pleasant to you. The whole essence of free speech is my constitutional right to say or make commentary that offend you. We cannot be arguing that freedom of expression is only applicable if we say things that are romantic, things that are welcoming, things that are receptive, things that are nice. No. Free speech typically entails my right to make comments that offend you within the permissible limits of the law. Because when now people are saying, oh, yes, you have the right to express yourself, but don't say things that irritate people. No. I have a right to say things that annoy you. That is why it is called freedom of speech. Otherwise, we are going to raise sycophancy to a state policy. We are going to run a one-party system. We are going to have a situation where Nigeria is being mirrored after North Korea.
And then isn't there, one would argue or wonder if what the place for the provision for defamation is? Because if you say something that I do not like and I find to be untrue,
yes,
isn't there already provision for me to take you to court to say, this thing you have said is untrue, you come and prove this thing that you said. So if there was already a provision, a legal provision for defamation, you know, the question...
No, there is.
So the question was now, what was the need for Section 24?
Why has... Let me even start with this case before I speak directly to the question. How come Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, has not filed an action against Sowore? He has not sued Sowore for defaming him. He has not made a complaint against Sowore. He has not. This was a case, as far as I'm concerned, instigated by busybodies. People who are desperate to please the president. People who want to convey the erroneous impression that they are active, that they are working. People who have failed to go after bandits, to go after terrorists who are dancing on TikTok, who are taunting the law, killing members of our armed forces. People who have failed to secure our country. Because they have failed in their constitutional and statutory mandate, they now want to give the president the impression that, look, we are still here. Look at it now, we have targeted Sowore. Now, the civil remedy is there. The legal redress is available. You can file an action for defamation, to seek damages, to seek compensation, to demand retraction. But this criminalization, this weaponization of the justice system against free speech, in all the cases that you have seen, it is either by highly influential people in the corporate sector or politicians or people of influence in the society. So it looks as if our laws regarding the Cyber Crimes Act is being tailored to protect the powerful. That is what we are seeing. Don't forget that this Cyber Crimes Act was amended secretly because there were provisions that suggested or said if you make a comment that causes another person to feel insult, to cause anxiety, you can imagine. It's very silly, pardon my language. People sat in the National Assembly and passed under the old Section 24 and say, if I send a message by means of computer that makes you anxious, causes anxiety to you, makes you feel insulted, I can be prosecuted. Anxiety. I mean, this is so unserious. So, legislative rascality, that is what Section 24 speaks to. That in a country that serious issues are demanding parliamentary intervention, where we haven't seen that intervention. But they are so quick to criminalize or seek to criminalize speech to ensure that they entrench themselves in power. And even with the amendment, because under the amended Section 24, it has not been limited to messages that is capable of causing breakdown of law and order or that is pornographic. He already didn't say anything that is pornographic. Did he post anything that is capable of causing breakdown of law and order? Where, what, how, where? Nobody has explained to me how calling somebody a criminal is capable of causing breakdown of law and order. Is it that the armed robbers in the country will go after that person or will embark on a protest? Well, or, no, what exactly is the law and order that can be broken for calling somebody a criminal? I want somebody to explain to me to understand. As a Nigerian, I'm not even speaking as a lawyer now. And I'm not speaking about Sowore's case in particular, I'm speaking generally. Can you explain to me how referring to somebody as a criminal can lead to breakdown of law and order?
So then we'll go back to what you were saying regarding the applicability of the law to every single person. In this case, not necessarily about, I do not believe that it's necessarily about what was said as much as it is about who it was said to, right? Because again, if someone calls Chiwetel a criminal, that cannot, I don't think that they will say will lead to breakdown of law and order. But then it's the office.
Meanwhile, this is even a comment on the cyberspace. It's not like
it was direct.
It's not like it was in a market. Yeah. People were shouting, ole, 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 ole. And then the area boys came to attack you. That is not the scenario here. Comment on the cyberspace. So is it that the law and order was going to break down on Facebook? People were going to riot on Facebook or on Twitter? This likely breakdown of law and order, where was it likely going to take place?
They said it could have incited them.
Incited who?
To come out.
No single person came to court to say I was incited. The only witness the prosecution has called in this case is an official of the State Security Service, one person. Nobody from the villa, not even the sycophants around the president.
So with this,
not even Bayo Onanuga came to court to say I felt incited. I mean, even those paid by the president, they didn't call a single person to say I was incited or I was capable of being incited. Look, I'm not passing judgment on the case. I'm just explaining to you my frustration in understanding why this charge was brought. Why federal government resources is being devoted to prosecute this matter. When there are serious cases that are supposed to be tried, when there are serious crimes that are taking place as we are having this conversation, why did the prosecution deem it fit to bring this case to the courts? It's frustrating. I struggle to understand.
Okay, we have just 3 minutes to go, or 2 minutes, I beg your pardon. What's the way forward?
Well, the way forward, I'm calling on the government to drop the charge. Yes, they should drop. The president himself has even said similar things in the past. This Bola Tinubu that they are seeking to protect, go and see the thing we fed against Jonathan.
So is it about the government dropping the charge, the judiciary dropping the charge, or isn't there like a legal way for him to go and maybe challenge that bill?
No, like I mentioned to you, there are two options being considered. One is to file an appeal. The second is to go back before the learned judge and apply that the order be set aside for reasons that he will have to advance. And I'm pleading with the court to look at the matter in the interest of justice. I do not see how this benefits our country to keep Sowore again in detention. Are we using him for some experimentation? This man has been detained over and over. And there are people whose spirit you cannot break through incarceration. Sowore is one of them. I don't know why they have failed to learn this lesson, that this man's spirit cannot be conquered. For a man who has a green card, for a man who has the opportunity to live in the United States for the rest of his life, abandoned that, came since 2015 and has been in Nigeria protesting, you should understand that something is leading him. So, if all this is targeted at ensuring that he doesn't... Because what is the objective here for the government? Okay, assuming they even have Sowore convicted, how would this have profited the country? This president, in whose name this charge is being prosecuted, I am telling you again, go and check the comments he has made against his opponents in the past. Because Tinubu is an opponent of Sowore. Yes, Sowore is the presidential candidate of the African National Congress. Tinubu is the presidential candidate of the APC. So they are political opponents. And political commentaries allow you to abuse your opponents. It is allowed universally, except we want to mirror North Korea or China. But I always tell Nigerian politicians, before you model your governance after China, also model the economy. Not the political system, where you have the Communist Party as this only political party in China. How about the economy that China is leading the world? Why can't they model our economy after China, develop our country the way the Chinese government has developed China? Okay. Why is it only in suppression of speech? Why does Tinubu want to behave like Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, in terms of governance? Whereas, even under a state of war, Ukraine has better power supply than Nigeria. The Ukrainian economy is doing better than the Nigerian economy. And they're telling us that country is not at war. You have children, school children in Ibadan, who are still being held in the forest by terrorists. They have not been rescued. The government is... Do you know the other part of it? The only reason, maybe the last comment I'm going to make, the reason why the Nigerian government keep attacking Sowore is because he has not taken up arms. Sowore has chosen non-violence. The day assuming Sowore says tomorrow, non-violence is no longer working, is no longer effective, I am willing to toe the path of other people who decided to take up arms. They will start dialoguing with him. Okay. We have a country that is in love with terrorists, with those who take up arms, that is reintegrating criminals that have killed Nigerians, killed members of the armed forces, pays them, reintegrate them. But those who carry placard, they are the people that the government continue to target. And
okay, let me just take two comments. Charles Dennis says, to call someone a criminal, a court with competent jurisdiction must have convicted the person. Sowore was wrong. But calling the president a criminal wouldn't break any law and order. The federal government should rest. Mokunye Chukwuemeka says they will not drop any charge. It's just to distract the people from their failures as a government. Charles Dennis still says, Sowore knows the tenets of our CJS, and when you jump bail, a court order will be obtained to rearrest you and your bail revoked. He should attend this trial and have the prosecutor prove his guilt. Thank you to our virtual audience. Thank you for joining us this morning on Breakfast Central.
That's a wrap.
That's how we wrap up and close the curtain. So we're back again tomorrow to bring you updates regarding Sowore. And again, to remind you that we still have captives in Oyo and Borno State. Thank you for watching. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.